Yeah, I promise I'm not sick anymore. I'll face this way. Hi, I'm Taylor Humble. I'm the local social worker here. I have down there your name is Jared. Is that what you prefer to go by? Is that what you like to be called?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So today we're just gonna pretty much get to know each other a little bit. I'm gonna find out like why you're seeing me today, and then just get basic information. Find out a little about you. Maybe I'll give a little bit of information about me when time comes if it's needed. So yeah, the best you can do today is just share information with me, be open and honest with me, but that's not saying that you have to share everything with me. So if there's something that you're not really wanting to share, that's okay, but you don't have to, go into depth about everything. And then when we're in our office together, so our office for today is this little room, but anything that you say and I say just stays between the two of us. That means that I can't go out and share it with them, so that's confidentiality, so I can't share that with, say, your mom or your dad without you giving me permission. But there are some exceptions to it. So I'd have to report it if you have a plan to hurt yourself or a vulnerable adult, or I expect neglect or abuse of a child. But I mean, you're here as a freshman in college, so I'm assuming there might not be a problem there with that, but there always could be. So just tell me a little bit about what brings you in today.
Yeah, so I'm a freshman at Ferris, and I'm from Newberry in the Upper Peninsula, which is like a 1,500 person town. I think they've shrunk to like 1,200, but going from that to Ferris is kind of overwhelming. I feel like you come from a little small town where you walk through the grocery store and everybody knows who your grandparents are, to here where I have no idea who anybody is, and with COVID, it's hard to meet anybody too, and I'm also an introvert. I'm living in a room by myself, so that on top of trying to be like a student, I guess I'm just really stressed out.
Is it the meeting other people that's stressing you out, or is it the being a student that's stressing you out, and like the homework load that comes with that?
I think it's both. I think it's less like the actual meeting people. Like I don't think I'm super stressed out about meeting people. I think it's just the fact that I don't know anybody right now. You feel kind of lonely on a campus of 10,000 and not knowing anybody.
Yeah, the change from, you went to a high school where you probably had 50 people in a grade, to now you're here with
I graduated with 35, yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. I went to a small high school myself, and it's a big change where I went from knowing every single person's name to I know 20 people now on campus.
Yeah.
I guess that, I'm not actually on campus anymore. But so yeah, that must be hard for you making that transition from, small school, small town, knowing everybody around there, to now you feel like you're just separated from everybody else, even though you're in a bigger town where there's more people. Have you made any, efforts to reach out to people, try to make any friendships at all? I know you mentioned you're an extrovert, so you're not, or introvert, so you're not big into talking to people a lot, but...
Yeah, well, I know it's something I need to do, but with COVID happening right now, it's like, everything is shut down, so you get the advice from your parents of like, oh, leave your door open, and then you get to college and the RA is like, don't open your door, we're keeping everybody safe, and I'm like, well, thanks, Mom and Dad, that didn't help any, so like there's not, from what I hear of people who went to college before me, they said that there's like usually events and like get to know you stuff at the beginning of the semester, but it feels like I just showed up on campus and everybody's like, great, you're here, go to your room and do your classwork, And
then your classwork that you have, is most of that online now, or are you doing a lot of in-person still?
Yeah, no, it's all online. I have one that alternates, so I have class in person and the other one's a Zoom class, but everything else is fully Zoom.
Okay. So yeah, you mentioned being stressed out about just being in a new town, being around new people, school. How would you say that your stress affects you on a daily basis?
I've had times where I've flirted with not doing homework assignments, but it was definitely drilled into me from a young age that you do your schoolwork. You know, my mom was a teacher, so that's kind of how that goes. But I think it's been more of like I said, I have a room by myself in the dorms, and so I'll end up just like, I'll get my homework done, and then I'll just end up laying on my carpet looking at the ceiling because it's like
There's nothing to do, or
what do I do now? I don't like have anybody to reach out to, so it's just me and the four walls.
And then being during COVID, it's really hard to meet those people that we mentioned before, because there's no welcome weekend pretty much at fairs where it's like everybody's getting to meet each other and their major things of that nature. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from, really stressed out, and then you're feeling, I guess, probably kind of lost because there's nothing really for you to do. You're bored all the time on campus, and there's just, it's hard for you to find something to do to take that stress off of your shoulders.
Yeah.
When you were back home, what would you do to relieve your stress when you were stressed?
Usually I'd go play basketball or something like that. My neighbors had a basketball hoop in their driveway that they would just let me go use. And then, also, I mean, like we we're talking about, it's such a small town that everybody.
Yeah.
And, if I felt like I could go drive across town and show up at my friend's house and be like, hey, I'm here, and, now I don't know anybody, so.
And then driving across town here is probably a little different too than driving across town where you're from. Where here is, 5-minute drive across town. Where you're from is probably 25.
Yeah, especially for friends who live out of town.
Yeah.
I had a friend who lived like almost a town over, but I would go and do that at his house. But he lived on a farm in the middle of nowhere, so that was like a 20-minute drive.
And towns in the UP aren't really towns, they're like groups of people, I guess.
Yeah.
So how often would you say that you're stressed out? Is it a everyday thing? Is it a 2-3 times a week thing?
Yeah, first week I was here, it wasn't as bad, because like I was still on the high of my parents just brought me down and I saw all my family and we waved goodbye. But yeah, after that it's pretty much an everyday thing.
And then how long would you say it lasts for? Like, you mentioned, doing your homework and laying on your floor, looking at your ceiling, just surrounded by your four walls in your room. Or is that something that lasts for, 10 minutes, or is that something you do for an hour, 2 hours?
I guess I've noticed that it happens more as we get closer to dusk. I feel better when the sun's out, if that makes sense. But, I guess we're getting closer to shortest day of the year. Days are getting shorter, so I'm starting to feel that earlier in the day, and then I guess when it happens, it's usually I lay on the floor, stare at the ceiling until my stomach yells at me enough that I'm like, okay, I have to get up and go across campus over to get some food.
Yeah, time to go to the dining hall, time for dinner. The feeling of, just feeling better during the day, do you think that's because of, the sunlight, how you mentioned, like during dusk is when this mainly happens? It's more like the sun's up, like it's time to, be out and do stuff. And then once dusk hits, it's like, oh, like there's, not as much to do, and then you don't have the same amount of energy you did.
Yeah, and my girlfriend calls me a plant because, like,
thrive in the sunlight and struggle when it's nighttime outside.
Yeah, but I mean that's exactly what you're saying. That's kind of how it goes. Yeah.
And to help relieve your stress here, I know we mentioned things that you did back home. What do you try to? Is there like anything you try to do here to relieve that stress?
Sometimes I'll call up one of my friends and we'll jump on Rocket League or some video game.
Okay.
But they're busy too.
Is that a friend from where you're like home, or is that a friend from here?
Yeah.
Friend from home.
Yeah. he's actually a few states over, but yeah, like I said, he's settling into college too, so it's not like I can just be like, oh well, I'm having a rough time. Let me call him and he'll be ready to jump on all the time, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that would be a good person for you to call, because I think that's somebody who would understand where you're coming from. Because, you know, they're also at college during COVID right now. They might have the same feelings that you're having right now, where it's like you know, you're kind of lost, or there's not something to do. You're stressed out just because you're not really, you know, getting the full college experience as you would before COVID.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you have a girlfriend. Is that somebody who, you know, lives close around here? Is that also back home?
No, she's going to, you know where Alma is?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's going to school over there. So.
It's not as far as home, but
right.
It's still a ways away.
It's close enough, because I mean, like, the UP is, any of the towns is an hour away, so it's kind of used to it, but yeah, not close enough that I could just walk across the street.
Yeah, it's not like you're going to another dorm room or something like that. So is she somebody that you try to, you know, interact with quite a bit, spend some time with to relieve that stress?
Some, yeah. We have scheduled phone calls throughout the week a couple of times, but yeah, that's another one that, like, I rely on them, but also it's, you know, I can't rely on them all the time, because, you know, one, I need to build friendships here, because I just have to, and, you know, number two, it's she's got her own things going on, so, you know, I can't all of the time be like, hey, I need to talk because I'm staring at my ceiling again, you know.
Yeah. You mentioned you had scheduled phone calls with her. Is that something that you've tried doing with maybe your parents or somebody, like maybe siblings, if you have any?
No, I haven't tried that.
I think that, you know, would help you get the feeling of being back home maybe a little more, because before you mentioned having the feeling of like, hey, my parents just dropped me off, like I just seen them. I think that's something that might, you know, help bring that feeling back. So like, you know, you could schedule like, hey mom, I want to meet with you for, you know, 20 minutes on Tuesday at 6 o'clock or something like that. Just so you can, you know, talk to her about how college is going maybe, or, you know, anything of that nature, like just how you are. If that's something you think you could do.
Yeah, I'll probably do that.
So, other than, you know, laying at your ceiling right now and looking at, you know, laying on your floor and looking at the ceiling, if you're laying on your ceiling, I'd be pretty impressed.
Yeah, core workout, for sure.
What do you really do, like, during your free time? I know you mentioned, you know, you go to the dining hall a little bit, stuff like that, you play Rocket with your friends, but that only, you know, can make up a little bit of the time during the day. What else do you do?
Well, I'm big into sports, which is not as helpful right now because everything's shut down, but there's a hoop down by the I don't even know what school it is. Big Rapids feels like there's 8 of them, but one of the schools downtown, down by Hemlock Park, has a basketball court.
It's like right over here in the subdivision. Is that the one you're talking about?
Maybe. It's north of campus on the river.
Okay.
Yeah. So they've got a court that I go down there and I shoot sometimes. I like to run because I ran cross country, and those help sometimes. But like I said, the days are getting shorter, so there's less opportunity for me to be playing basketball outside because it's Michigan and we're gonna get snow in a week or 2 here because that's how it goes. I wish that the rec center was open because I got the tour of that over my campus visit, and I was like, oh great, this will be fantastic when it starts snowing, and now it's shut down, so that's not super helpful. But those physical activity stuff are the stuff that I usually go for.
And then when, you know, you mentioned you run cross country and you like to run now, is that something you would continue to do during the winter, or is that something you'd also stop because it's cold outside?
It depends. Back home I couldn't necessarily because there was so much snow, but I think here I might be able to, and especially if the rec center does open up, that's something I definitely would then. On treadmill or something.
Yeah, and then they have that track that goes around up above the basketball courts that you could run on.
I haven't had a chance to run on it, but I've ran on some smaller tracks and before, and it's weird because it feels like you're just like always
Turning.
turning. Yeah.
I think something nice about it would be though that you mentioned playing basketball too. You could run while you watch other people play basketball. Like it's you like running, but also it's something just to do while you're running at the same time.
Yeah.
Take your mind off running.
Yeah, and I like being a fan of sports, and I was looking forward to following the football team and the basketball teams when they get started up, and the hockey team, but it looks like those might not even happen. So I guess that's something else that I would have liked to do, but I don't know that I'll get the chance to do it.
Yeah, have the college sports experience during the time.
Yeah.
Excuse me for a second. I've had a cough. I'm gonna grab a drink real quick.
Yeah.
So, you seem pretty stressed out during this time, having to be COVID along with online classes. Everything's closed down. You're stuck with your online classes. And then, just not having the opportunities that you normally would on a college campus before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you, rate your stress level on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least amount, 10 being the highest? Like, a 10's where you can barely handle it anymore, and a 1's just like this is pretty much normal for me.
Well, this is a scale for me, like not like the scale of the most stressed a person could be.
I think this would be more of a personal scale because everybody handles stress different. It's not everybody in the world gonna have the same level of stress all the time or the same outlooks of it. It's just how a person handles it themselves. So it's based off of you and how you're feeling.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm probably at a 9. It's a lot of new stress, so I don't necessarily know that I know how to handle it.
And that's a 9 is pretty high. Like you're really stressed out.
Yeah.
What are what's it like? What would you like that to be down to here? Like within, we could say the next week, 2 weeks.
I don't know. It's hard to see it changing. And I mean, I think I always kind of run at a baseline of like 2 to 4. So I don't think that a 1 is probably realistic, but I don't know. Over the next week, maybe just like an 8. if we're gonna go somewhere, yeah, I guess get down 1.
I mean, I think an 8 is really realistic too. Even I think an 8 is something that you could possibly be at by the end of our conversation, like our meeting today. Just getting everything off of your chest, being able to talk to somebody about everything that you've been feeling lately. And then I think by next time, a week or 2, I think you could have that stress level down to a 5 or 4 maybe. You talked about that a 4 or 3, that area is your normal stress level. Do you think that you could be back down, just a little bit above that maybe by next time we meet?
I honestly kind of doubt it because, I mean, it's, when I was in high school and I was stressed out, it was like, oh, I've got an exam coming up, not, oh, there's a global pandemic.
Yeah.
So it's hard to imagine that I'm going to be down anywhere close to my baseline because it's all external, I'm sure there's things that I could do to
relieve it a little
some
bit,
of it. Yeah, but
I understand where you're coming from because it's like you can't control the pandemic yourself.
Yeah. I certainly wish I could, but.
And then is the pandemic? I forgot to ask this earlier. Is that something that started, like your senior year in high school, or is this brand new to you? Everything's brand new.
Yeah, this was senior year of high school, so we had a few weeks left, and actually my class was supposed to take, my Spanish class was going to take a trip to Spain, and then we had a meeting to talk about just kind of like what's going on, and they told us that the trip was canceled, and so that's a bummer.
Yeah, it's gotta.
We got some vouchers for it, but and then 2 days later, school was shut down, so it was just very quick snowballing, and I kind of feel like it's been just like snowballing downhill until I'm sitting in this office. Yeah.
And then, you had to feel some sort of stress during high school. Is there things that you did then that you don't do now that you could help relieve that with more?
Things I did then that I don't now, you said?
Yeah, so like, now you play Rocket, you go run a little bit, play basketball here and there. When the pandemic first started, you were at home.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do different to help relieve that stress? I know you mentioned your friends; they probably played a big part in it.
They did some. My friends' parents were pretty strict about not seeing each other because it was COVID. So we'd call every once in a while, but it was a lot of the same things. Like high school to pandemic, I've done a lot of the same things. I think just the amount of stress is bigger. So the strategies that I use are good. They're just not
good
maybe
enough anymore.
Enough, yeah.
And then, yeah, high school is a little different than college too. You mentioned 35 total people in your grade when you graduated compared to everything now. So I think really finding somebody like just having friends on campus is something that you could really benefit from, if that's something you're willing to do during the pandemic. I know that some people don't want to really go out and meet other people right now, even though they deep down want to. It's just something that they know that they really shouldn't be doing. Is that something that you're willing to do, is go out and try to meet other people at least a little bit?
I would like to connect with people. Like I said, it's hard because everything's shut down. And then, I've also got the voices of the people in my life that care about me saying, like, don't, not necessarily don't go out, but like, don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to get this disease that's killing so many people in the world, So
it's hard to do what you want and then also have to do what other people want at the same time.
Yeah.
And then it's not necessarily that you don't want what they want, but you also need somebody or a couple people here to be friends with at the same time, but that's something they might not understand.
I think people need connection, and so I've been trying to find that, but it also feels like almost such a moral thing to not go out and meet people, because like I'm putting people that I care about at risk if I get COVID. So it's on the one hand I'm trying to look out for myself and make sure that my mental health is okay, but on the other it's it's like a moral thing of like, don't endanger other people.
Yeah, and then I don't know, do you know what Maslow's hierarchy of needs is?
I took a dual psych class and we talked about it, but if I'm being honest, I skimmed it and forgot about it.
So it's basically like, picture a pyramid and then everything's building up to the next level, and pretty much to go to the next level you need everything in the category below that. And you got like food, water, shelter, stuff like that building up. And one of the most important things is human interactions in there, just because if you're a person who's not having any human interactions, it's going to be completely different, and you're just going to feel on an island all by yourself, which then can help make you struggle to get those other needs you have in your life. So I just think having more human interaction would be good, and good for a lot of people during COVID, but it's also something that's hard to create during this time.
Yeah. Are there ways to do that, I don't know, safely, I guess?
I'm not 100% sure. Like, I don't want to, tell you something and have it be wrong for about, at Ferris and what they're doing there. It's something I think I could do a little bit of research in for next time we meet, or maybe meet with one of my colleagues who attended Ferris and just ask them. We have a, a new colleague who graduated last year, so she would have been during this very start of it, ask her what she did to, meet new people and just to experience everything. So I could get that information for you next time if that's okay, but that's something I don't want to give you information right now and have it be wrong. Is that something you're okay with?
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we're meeting next week, so you have to get through another week of staring at your ceiling before you can get just some sort of tips towards something.
Yeah. Well, I was going to be doing that anyway, so.
I think something that you could really so like a time period that you can meet friends is during class. You mentioned how your class is half online, half in person. I think that'd be a great time, to meet people, because you're already there, you're already interacting with those people. And then do you do a lot of like group work in your classes?
No, I think intentionally on the part of the professor, I think they're, yeah, they actually mentioned that they're not allowed to have people sitting like next to each other, so we have to have a seat in between us. So that's another thing that's hard.
Yeah,
because,
it's hard. Yeah, it's not like
I'm sitting over here trying to, wave you down to have a conversation. So.
I mean, maybe after class you could talk to somebody for a little bit, like, on the way out, like out the door, down the stairs or something like that if you're upstairs.
Yeah.
Just, to get a little of that human interaction in. Maybe find somebody where you're like, hey, like, maybe we could go grab something to eat sometime or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd be open to that.
It's just, finding somebody that you're, willing to hang out with, and finding somebody who during this time is also willing to hang out with people even though there's still a pandemic going on. I'm not saying you need to, go and find like a big group of people to hang out with, but you could hang out with like 1 or 2 people at a time, something like that. I think that would just open up a lot of doors for you too. Being you can meet with that person and say they're from around here, they're gonna have a lot of friends. It's just like you can then make their friends your friends also if you hang out enough.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense.
So for next time we meet, we're gonna have to have, we're not gonna have to have, I'm gonna provide you with information on what you can do to, meet more people, get out and about, just help experience that college life more instead of, being trapped in a dorm like everybody else who's here right now. Yeah. So I'll, do a little bit of searching around, maybe call a couple places like the rec center. I can call them for you, see when they're gonna open up, and maybe they'll open up for the winter so you'll have somewhere to go play basketball with. And then, talk to my colleague, get a little bit of information from her. And then for next time we meet, we talked about, your stress level and where you're at right now. You're at that 9, you're pretty high.
Yeah.
Just talk about maybe getting that down a little bit. So we can, talk right now and try to figure out a little bit of a plan for you to get that down. And then I know there's a little bit of breathing exercises we can talk about here in a little bit that can hopefully lower stress level. And that'll be towards the end of our interview here, so we just got that a little bit to run over.
Okay.
So I know personally one thing I do to really help with my stress is a breathing technique. You breathe in for 4, you hold it for 4, and then you exhale for 4. When I was in college, we did internships for social work where we, went and picked like an agency and we worked there for say 60 hours, 80 hours, something of that. And this is something we use at mine quite a bit. I did it at school. So what you do is you just inhale for 4 seconds, then you hold it for 4 seconds, and then you exhale out your nose for 4 seconds. Is that something you'd like to try real quick and just see?
I think I'll give it a shot.
On your own time?
Yeah.
Okay. I know that's just, that's something we did a lot of times when we've had students come in who are even like angry. It's just something that can help calm somebody down. It's just, like releasing yourself a little bit, like releasing your energy. Like when you're angry, you're kind of letting go of that, like, and then you're stressed out, you're kind of letting go of that for a little bit and focusing on yourself, focusing on your breathing instead of focusing on being stressed out.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot, but it feels like that would help me if I'm like in acute stress, but when there's like the overwhelming like
everything
looming thing, like I said, I'll give it a shot, but
okay, well, I appreciate that. That's all I really just try it a little bit, see if it happens to help you at all. I appreciate you really coming in today. I plan on meeting with you next week. I'll have all that information provided for you, and I'll think of other ways just in general for you to help relieve your stress. So it was nice meeting you, and I hope you have a good rest of your week until we meet again.
You too.